Guess I won't be rebroadcasting this on Twitch today
Why?
because Dell decided to start installing a BIOS update, and now I can't move my cursor.
Oh boy.
On that machine, which is hilarious because I can actually see the stream.
You have a couple minutes.
No, I mean it's frozen while it's installing the BIOS.
I mean, if depending on how long that installation goes.
I remember. won't affect this stream.
Yeah.
The good day stream. The good day stream.
No, this is not the good day stream. This is the DTNS stream. We don't have a good day internet stream. You get part of it in the DTNS stream, but not all of it. Got to be a patron to get all of it. We should figure that out when we have our little sit-down meeting that I want to have.
When you get back from your overseas.
If I survive Australia.
Oh, when does that happen?
You will.
Friday night.
You better.
Yeah.
I mean, everything in Australia is designed to kill people,
including
spiders,
the people. Believe it or not.
That's why I don't go there.
Fish.
I already have my rant on here about Australia.
You're spreading FUD about Australia.
If he gets
eaten by a lovely place.
I've been there once and survived.
Tom gets eaten by a kangaroo. That is not our fault.
I've been there twice, and the only poisonous jellyfish I saw were washed up on the beach.
Oh, for goodness sake!
Everything is poisonous and evil there.
Especially when you go through customs. They almost didn't let me. They almost didn't let me leave because the name on the airline ticket was not my full name, and so it didn't have.
Well, that's how long ago you went. You had an airline ticket. That was a long time ago.
Okay, like you don't get like a printout. I got a printout.
You mean a boarding pass?
Yeah, boarding pass.
Oh, I thought you meant you like.
Yeah.
Well, it's a ticket to me.
Not a ticket.
It's a ticket to ride on a plane.
How long ago was it though?
It was about 10 years, 12.
That's a long time ago.
Long time ago to who?
To most people. Oh, look, I can start the Twitch stream now. The BIOS is finished. You were right, Sarah.
So it was sad, Roger. I finally got to see you in person, and then we couldn't, like, I was being ushered away by a line. Remember that the movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I remember.
I was like, that's him. No, I gotta go.
Roger.
I thought he'd be taller, but no, it was just Roger.
No, you're about as tall as I thought you would be.
Not as tall as Tom, but tall.
Yeah. I don't know.
The worst thing I hate is when people say, like, you look shorter in person. I hate that.
Oh, no.
How do you think I feel?
I don't like it when people say to me, Tom, you look fatter in person.
No, people would say to me, without fail, they say, wow, you seem so much bigger on the internet.
Tom, you're so much uglier in person.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, great. Glad the internet is adding however many pounds. But
all right. Okay. Shall we talk AI and the Internet of Edge or whatever they call it?
Internet of
Edge. We
Edge.
shall.
What a title.
All right, here we go. 3, 2.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by people like me, not outside organizations. To learn more, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, May 7th, 2018. In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
Also in Los Angeles, I'm Lamarr Wilson.
And near Los Angeles, our producer, Roger Chang.
Yes, Los Angeles adjacent.
We have a lot of Microsoft Build news to talk about, but let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Fitbit Versa and Ionic smartwatches are getting a quick reply feature to respond with suggested text to messages from the watch if you're also using an Android phone. Windows and iOS users will get an update to the Fitbit app that lets you track your menstrual cycle, among other things, and see predictions based on your data about cycle length and fertility.
TechCrunch reader Sean Garwal, I knew I was going to mess that up, noted that code found inside Instagram's Android app refer to music stickers, which could let you search for and add a song to your post, showing Instagram can imitate musically, not just this Snapchat. Facebook recently reached licensing deals with major labels.
Google released the Android Things Toolkit for Internet of Things out of preview right in the middle of Microsoft build. Several Android Things products will hit store shelves by the end of summer, including smart speakers from LG, smart display from Lenovo. Also, Volvo announced earlier today that it will add Google Maps Assistant and Google Play Store to the Census infotainment system over the next few years. That way, driver wouldn't need to have a phone at all to take advantage of Android Auto. And Android Auto is going to soon support messaging as well as the RCS Rich Communication Service.
The Center for Internet Security identified an arbitrary code execution vulnerability in 7-zip for versions prior to 18.05. The vulnerability is not believed to have been exploited, and a patch version of 7-zip was released last week.
I've been using 7-zip forever. That's good to know. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the fate of ZTE. Lamarr, what do you got?
ZTE, well, they submitted an application to the U.S. Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security asking for a suspension of the ban against U.S. companies selling components and software to it. Meanwhile, MediaTek received an export permit from Taiwan to sell components to ZTE.
So ZTE not giving up. They're battling the ban in the United States, which would prevent them from getting, say, chips from Qualcomm, as well as, depending on who you talk to, possibly could be interpreted to mean they couldn't use Android, which would be a huge deal. But at the same time, they're turning to Taiwan, and Taiwan's like, oh, yeah, you want to send more money into our country? Great. No problem. Here you go.
Not a problem.
We'll approve that export permit right now.
Yeah. I thought this was this is a interesting subject because, you know, as this is a tech news show, that this definitely plays along the tech lines, but it also could be very political. You know, the reason
because of the whole trade war rhetoric that's out there. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. So it's a tough, one to cover, and a tough one to really have a opinion about, who's right, who's wrong. Is it for a political reason? Is it, if they really broke the law, is this too harsh? There's so many components of this to think about. No pun intended on components. So like, I'm not sure what to think about.
As long as you don't sell the components of your opinion to ZTE.
Yes, then I'm fine. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, outside of politics, the way I look at this issue is this could be very difficult for ZTE because they would not be able to take advantage of certain parts, as well as not being able to sell into the United States, which is a growing market for them. It could be bad for certain U.S. parts suppliers because they won't be able to sell their parts to ZTE and possibly Huawei, which is also undergoing a review like this. So there are a lot of implications that's like, whatever you think about the decisions, these are the impacts the decisions are having. Got some self-driving car news here. Good and not good. Drive.ai announced Monday that it will launch level 4 autonomous car service as a test for more than 10,000 people in a geofenced area in Frisco, Texas. This is north of Dallas. They expect to launch it sometime in July. That's the good news. Folks in Frisco, Texas get to try out. It's kind of similar to the Las Vegas self-driving bus, where it'll be going along predetermined routes, even though it's level 4. It won't be just out on the roads in general. Meanwhile, sources tell the information that the fatal crash involving an Uber autonomous car in Arizona might have been caused by a faulty setup of the software that is meant to detect objects in the road. The way it is described by the information, the program has a sensitivity level, and I'm sure we're oversimplifying, but essentially the idea is you adjust it so that it avoids dangerous objects that would cause the car to crash, but it doesn't swerve out of the way when it sees like a paper bag, right?
Who adjusts it?
The programmers, right? They adjust the sensitivity level.
Not adjusted by a driver.
I actually don't know who adjusts it, but I assume
one would think a driver would not have that kind of.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think so. I would think that the engineers at Uber set the software to say, okay, be this sensitive. We figured out that this is the right sensitivity level to make sure you're not wildly swerving when you see a paper bag, but you are swerving when you see something solid.
Well, and the funny thing is like if all cars were autonomous, then wildly swerve, like you'd want it to be as sensitive as possible, right? Because all the cars would stop in the same way. But
actually, I mean, it could be dangerous if all cars were swerving out of the way of plastic bags and leaves, and like that would just cause swerving all over the place. So you want to have it set at the right level that says, don't swerve out of the way from things that are inconsequential. Leaves, I think, is a really good example. But do swerve out of the way when you see something like a person, right? The sources say the setting was off, and that is why the car did not slow down, because it was set at a level that saw a human with a bicycle as being something it didn't need to get out of the way of.
Wow.
So it was a wrong setting according to these sources.
Yeah, this is a tough one. It's made me think, like, we want this technology to happen, but when we see these accidents, are we? I mean, I'm not trying to be insensitive of the person who passed, but like, are we being like? Are we jumping to conclusions too fast? Like, oh, we need to trash this. It's awful. Where we have actual drivers who commit more accidents in a minute than some of these have done in their lifetimes.
Yeah, and there's arguments that it's so early on in the number of miles that have been tested with autonomous cars that you really can't compare it to real drivers, because it's the number of fatal accidents per miles driven, which with one now for Uber makes them more dangerous, but it's just not an effective sample to compare to, right? Yeah. But the question now becomes, A, why wasn't the safety driver paying attention? Was that a failure? Which obviously it was, but was there a failure in the way that safety driver was behaving? And why was that setting there? And why was that setting off? Was it a failure of the engineers to set it properly, or was it the research showing that was the proper setting and it didn't work the way they expected?
Moving on, Spotify, now a public company, and things are changing with big labels. Last week, Sony, which held the largest stake in Spotify, announced it had sold roughly half of its shares in the company, which was worth about $750 million. Today, Warner Music Group, which is the second largest holder of Spotify shares, announced that it sold 75% of its Spotify shares, worth about $400 million. Spotify reported its first quarter earnings last week and is currently valued at $27 billion. So what do you guys think? Seems to be a bit of a sell-off of big companies that Spotify still has to pay a lot of licensing royalties to.
Yeah. And both Sony and Time and Warner Music Group have come out with similar statements of, hey guys, we don't generally invest in companies. So once they go IPO, we cash out. Like, this is not a lack of faith. We want to make our money off Spotify as licensors of the music, not as investors. So I don't think this means they don't want Spotify to succeed. They absolutely want Spotify to succeed.
Yeah, they're making a lot of money from Spotify.
Yeah, I think this was probably the plan all along, is invest in Spotify to help it get off the ground. Once it's successful enough to IPO, sell off the stock, and just become a client.
Yeah, do you think it's kind of just like a moral thing? So there's no conflict of interest with them being public, that they, can you imagine a company being moral these days?
Conflict of interest? No, that's not in their calculation. I had not thought about that though. I'm going to guess no, that it's just pure filthy lucre that is in their. Yeah. In their.
It was interesting. What Warner Music said that, the profits will go to songwriters and some musicians. So, a percentage that's be interesting to see if that's how true that is. Because that would be the right thing to do if it was, again, a moral company.
That's a good thing to do, is to say, like, hey, this isn't part of your revenue share, but we profited, so we're going to include you in that. I'd be curious if they're able to say that because that's already in contracts with artists, so they have to legally give them some of that money.
Good point. So this next one it was an excellent article. I encourage everybody to read it. This is about robocalls. So robocall volume is on the rise in a big way, reaching an estimated 3.4 billion in April, according to UMail, which collects and analyzes calls through its robocall blocking service. That's up 900 million a month compared with a year ago. Now, both the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate have held hearings on the issue within the last 2 weeks. Federal regulators have also issued new rules back in November that gives phone companies the authority to block certain robocalls. This will definitely touch close to home because we think, okay, spam calls, which is definitely a huge part of it, but we're talking about robocalls even from your bank. I remember I did something very simple on my bank's website, logged in to do something, and all of a sudden I get this calls daily, hey, we're just checking in. Do you want to get a loan? Do you want to do this? And it was a definitely a robocall where I picked up and the please hold. And again, that's something I'm part of. You know, and just imagine all the spam ones that we get, that people are getting, especially in this last year. It is, you don't want to pick up your phone anymore. It's really insane.
Yeah, the robocall situation for me has become untenable. And part of it is what they call neighborhood spoofing, where, you know, my area code of my phone has been where I grew up forever, and I kind of like it that way, and I've always had that same area code. But because of that, I get lots of calls, multiple calls per day on a daily basis, including weekends, that look very similar to my phone number, to the point where you think like, oh, is it my mom, or, you know, is it somebody I know? I'm, you know, now hip to the game, but it took a while. And that is a way that, you know, they get people to pick up. And it sounds like, even though the government is like, no, this is not okay. We have a do not call list. That's all supposed to work. There are so many ways to circumvent this that it's becoming more and more of an issue. And I signed up for new health insurance recently, and if you want to get robocalls all day, every day about health insurance after you've already chosen your health insurance, choose health insurance, because it's to the point now where sometimes I don't pick up a phone call from a number I don't know because I'm sure it's fake, but it's actually somebody that was trying to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
And that's where you run into problems.
It's funny you said that about the neighborhood spoofing, because I get a call almost every day from this number that has my same area code from Chicago and my same first 3 digits. So it's making me like, oh, is someone, you know, making a mistake calling me? Is it someone from that area? And so, because I picked up one time, and it was one. Why did I do that? It was one of those calls, and you can tell them not to call; they'll still call.
Yeah, that whole sort of like, take me off your list politely doesn't work anymore. They just hang up on you.
Couple of notes here. If it is somebody you work with, like your bank, you can get them to take you off your list. They have the right to robocall you because you have a business relationship, but you should also very easily be able to get them to stop. The problem is the people that you don't have a business relationship and who aren't honoring the do not call registry because they don't care, because they're scams, because they're trying to break the law. Those are the ones that are flooding you. And I don't answer the phone if I don't recognize the number or if I'm not expecting the call. I just don't. And I figure, you know what? If it is important, they'll leave a message. I'll call them back. Maybe we lose a couple of minutes, right? But in the end, it's not worth it. I just don't answer the phone. I don't get that many calls anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. Available on the Amazon Echo, the Google Home, and the Anchor app, or also just as a good old-fashioned podcast, dailytechheadlines.com. All right, we're going to talk about the Microsoft Build announcements in a few chunks here. We're going to try to work our way through this. The 2 big themes were Azure Internet of Things Edge and AI. Those were the 2 big messages that Microsoft was pushing today. One of the ones that's getting a lot of attention is Microsoft Launcher for Android getting Windows Timeline. Windows Timeline is the one that promises to let you pick up your work no matter what device you're on. So for instance, the way it's going to work with Android is in the Windows launcher, you can see on timeline, oh, I was working on my document, my report on my Windows device. I can pick up right where I left off on my Android, touch a button, the version of the Office app launches on Android, carry on where I was. On iOS, Microsoft's Edge browser is getting timeline as well, because iOS is a little more limited. They don't have a launcher app there, but you'll be able to at least take some advantage of that on iOS. And there is an app called Your Phone, or Assista, I guess a service might be a better way of saying it, that lets users answer text messages, share photos, and see and respond to notifications from the Windows desktop. This is kind of IoT at the edge, although it's not exactly IoT. This is the edge they're talking about. And there's a few more APIs to talk about. Before we really get into IoT Edge proper, how do you guys feel about this idea of Microsoft expanding timeline across devices?
I think it's great. At the same time, I also wonder how different it is from something like Google Drive, where most of my documents and spreadsheets and various invoices and all sorts of things live, partly because it's free, but also because no matter what device I'm on, it's very easy to go in and access a document wherever I left off on my other device. So sure, I'm not sure what I'm missing, but this doesn't seem that revolutionary to me.
Well, you're missing the power of Office, which frankly is a better product than Google Drive. But if you don't take advantage of those powerful features, you're right. There isn't much difference.
Yeah, this reminds me, and I know you're going to get deeper into this. This whole thing reminds me of IBM, where IBM reached a point when there's like, look, hardware isn't working with consumers, so they backed off, and they're working on services to power the whole internet. So they're doing they're still alive and well, working in the background, and so I'm seeing. Just reading these announcements that's kind of what Microsoft wants to do. They we're going to talk about chat in a minute. They want to power the chat. They want to power this timeline and things happening in the background so they can have a piece in everything. And I think it's a great strategy for them as a business, frankly.
Yeah, here's a few more of those Azure layer things. I kind of think of it this like you're thinking, Lamarr. Like it used to be DOS, and then Windows was a layer over DOS, and now Microsoft wants to be a layer over operating systems and just work everywhere.
Yep.
Microsoft's going to combine its speech recognition service, its text-to-speech API, its customized voice models and translation service into one unified speech service. Microsoft also announced a new handwriting recognition service available across platforms and support for the custom vision service in Azure IoT Edge. Something just jumped on me. Excuse me. DJI announced that Azure is now its preferred cloud computing partner. Azure IoT Edge will be integrated into DJI drones, and DJI is launching an SDK for Windows. Microsoft also teamed up with Qualcomm to launch an AI developer kit for on-device inferencing on the edge. And Microsoft announced it will open source the code for IoT Edge. Microsoft launched Project Brainwave for running deep learning models in Azure and on the edge in real time. Brainwave is now in preview on Azure, and Microsoft promises to bring support for it to the Azure Stack and the Azure Data Box appliance. Microsoft also launched IntelliCode for Visual Studio, which will suggest the next API to use. That's going to be available for C# code in Visual Studio 2017. And Connect is not dead. Microsoft announced Project Connect for Azure, a new package of sensors that combines the Connect camera with an onboard computer and a small package that developers can integrate into their own projects. Microsoft says it'll be used in things like robotics or surveillance applications like security cameras to provide ambient intelligence. It has pre-built and customized models from the Microsoft Cognitive Services Suite and the IoT Edge platform for edge computing workloads. The key takeaway for me from Build is that Microsoft's marriage of Azure and Edge is their big strategy. In machine learning, you need the compute resources to train the AI. That's your cloud resources. You train it. You need some pretty intense graphics processors to do that. But once the models are done, you can push those models to the edge, into your devices, into your embedded systems. Hence, you have IoT Edge. So they're trying to marry up their cloud services and their AI platform to provide all that. First example being that Microsoft showed off more Amazon Cortana integration and launched a website for developers interested in receiving news on the integration. So you'll be able to tell Amazon, open Cortana. You'll be able to tell Cortana, open the A word, and they'll both communicate with each other.
So when I read that one and read the article, I was quite confused why Amazon would play ball with that. It seemed like it would, like on the surface, it seemed like it would be very redundant, very silly. Oh yeah,
Get it?
I get it. And so, but it was made to see that it's going to be a lot more seamless than a lot of people were confused about that. Why would you do that? And I guess if you have a Windows computer, like everybody has Cortana on it, so I guess there's a there's a marriage there that can happen that can be beneficial for Amazon. But
yeah, it seems like it's a nicer version of Google, right? I can add my Google Calendar to Amazon Voice Services, but it's just the calendar. With Cortana, I don't have to add anything. It's already there, and anything I do in Microsoft systems just works.
Yeah.
It would seem to me that Amazon, especially as a real leader in the whole voice assistant category, at least at this point, even way ahead of Google, it's not threatening for Cortana to have integration, with a lot of Amazon services. It could be at some point, I suppose, if the tables were to turn. But yeah, I don't see why necessarily, unless you were just, I don't know, you're a Cortana faithful, why that would be something that you would need if you already have access to Amazon Assistant.
Okay, let me explain a little further what I was just saying and see if this helps change your mind a little. You work in Microsoft because your job makes you. So
Sure.
your calendar is there, your email is there, everything is in there. And on your Windows desktop, you can tell Cortana to schedule a meeting, cancel a meeting, send an email, read an email, all that stuff.
Okay.
But on Amazon Echo, you get home and you're like, ooh, I wish I could ask the Echo at home to read my calendar. Well, now you can. You just say, hey, open Cortana, and then you do everything you did with Cortana without having to think about it. You don't have to do a bunch of skills and cobbling stuff together.
No, that's you're right. That is absolutely extremely cool. As long as you're in the Microsoft.
There you go. That's the thing.
That's the key. Yeah.
If you're not in there, you may be like, why would I go in there? But a lot of people are in there because work makes them
enterprise.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Microsoft said they're launching 100+ features for their bot framework, Microsoft's Bot Builder SDK. There are now 30,000 active bots per month that use Microsoft's conversational AI tools. Microsoft bots handle 30 million messages per day for 1,000 companies. Macy's, Asiana Airlines, Stack Overflow, the list goes on. Microsoft's conversational AI tools let you deploy bots on a website. That includes Slack, Facebook Messenger, Kik, SMS, etc. Also, Microsoft's language understanding module called Luis will let you convert speech into intents. And Microsoft introduced Project Conversation Learner, which lets you feed conversations to a machine learning algorithm to learn new dialogue sequences. And something called Project Personality Chat that lets you create some small talk interactions, not small talk interactions, so you can create the illusion that you're talking with a real person. This is all for developers to create better conversational bots. They also demoed the Office of the Future, but the cool thing that caught my eye was AI would help people follow up on action items. So it would be monitoring the meeting. And if you said, oh yeah, we'll follow up on that in a day, it would send you a reminder in Microsoft Teams the next day, like, hey, you're supposed to follow up on that thing you mentioned in the meeting. And Microsoft announced it's putting $15 million into its AI for Accessibility project. The project will provide seed grants to developers, universities, inventors, and NGOs. And Microsoft is pledging to bring inclusive design to all of its products.
Wow. They went to work today, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot announced. And a lot of it is trying to show like, hey, when we say AI, we're not just using it as a buzzword. We actually have some products that developers can work on right now to improve their apps. And we have offerings in our own services that are going to make life better for everybody.
Yeah, if they get their hooks and everything, like, again, I mentioned about the IBM thing, but they get their hooks underneath. I mean, that they end up powering a good chunk of the internet and the way people work. That's an amazing business plan. And I see why they're really pushing this on the developers. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll see how it's beneficial for us later.
Also, Microsoft Pay is being integrated into Outlook. Microsoft Excel getting support for Azure Machine Learning, custom JavaScript functions. Microsoft partnering with GitHub to make Visual Studio App Center available in the GitHub Marketplace. And Microsoft Remote Assistant will let customers share images, mixed reality annotations, and heads-up hands-free video calls. And Microsoft Layout lets users design spaces in mixed reality using real-world scale and experience the designs in VR or as high-quality holograms and collaborate on the editing there. So many good, cool things happening.
Considering that I/O starts tomorrow, even though Build runs through the 9th, it's a 3-day conference. You figure it's just get all the announcements out today before they get buried in other Google news.
Yeah,
I'm really confused about one thing you mentioned. Microsoft. There's a Microsoft Pay.
Yeah, it's called Microsoft Wallet.
Okay, I guess in the Xbox app there is that. You're right. I guess they changed the name. I never thought they had a payment system.
No,
like a Google Pay, Apple Pay. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
Lots of stuff going on the West Coast of the U.S. this week. But that's not the only place tech is happening. Let's check in with Nate Langston to find out what's been happening with tech in the UK.
Thanks, guys. This week we talked about Xiaomi partnering with one of Britain's major phone networks to bring their range of cell phones to the UK for the first time. This is one of the first times the Chinese manufacturer has ever officially sold products in Europe, and they are planning on heading to the US in about a year. Plus, one of our main TV broadcasters will be transmitting the upcoming royal wedding, but using facial recognition technology to identify celebrities in the crowd and identify them as interactive subtitles on screen and on web streams. We go into detail about how all that will work and how else facial recognition is gaining new use cases worldwide. All that and much more at techpodcast.uk. Back to you.
Thank you, Nate. All right, let's check in with the mailbag.
Wow, a royal wedding. That sounds like it's going to be very interesting. This one comes from Robert, who's in sunny San Diego, who says, you guys were discussing AR last week and some of its uses. And it made me realize I don't just want AR, I need it. In January, I started working at a semiconductor company where I spent a lot of time in a clean room. I need to have schematics and cabling tables and DUT, which is devices under test, data close to hand. I see a lot of potential for AR to be able to feed me that information and make it easier to adhere to our clean room protocol. So if there's anybody in the audience working on a usable solution, will you please hurry up? My neck is getting sore trying to see my laptop while tracing cables on a tester.
I love this message. I picture it, being able to see all the manuals and things that he needs and how to clean up. Yeah. Why is this not a thing for him?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe one of those Microsoft Build developers out there is working on exactly this.
Right.
And if
I know today's announcements sort of seem like we might have a solution.
They're given the tools for it for sure. So if you are working on something like this, or you know of someone working on something like this, send us an email. We'll pass it along to Robert, because if nothing else, I'll bet you he'll beta test it for you to see if it helps his
Save
neck.
Robert's neck. It's sore.
Yes. Subject title: Save Robert's neck.
Save Robert's neck. Thanks, Robert. It's always nice to know what challenges people are facing in the workforce and how AR and other things might help. And also thanks to Lamarr Wilson for being with us today. Lamarr, what's been going on with you?
Well, I do unboxings of various things, from tech to gaming to entertainment things. So you check me out at youtube.com/Lamarr Wilson. For a Star Wars Day, we did a nice little Lego giveaway that's still going on. And I don't want to spoil it. There is a really fun, I'll just call it retro tech video happening this week. So it'll be out in a day or two. Stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see that. Thank you.
I love me a retro tech video.
Oh, yeah.
So check it out, folks. youtube.com/Lamarr Wilson. Also, I will be heading out of town for a couple of weeks. Sarah and Roger will be holding down the fort with the rest of the gang while I'm gone. But if you happen to be in Australia on these dates, come say hi. I'm doing a meetup in Sydney, May 15th at 6 p.m. at Hart's Pub, corner of Essex and Gloucester Streets in the Rocks. Big thanks to Dee Colville for helping the scouting there. And in Melbourne on Tuesday, May 22nd at 6 p.m. All these times and dates are local to Australia, by the way. The one in Melbourne will be Tuesday, May 26th, 6 p.m. at Bartronica, which is Flinders Lane. Thanks to Peter Wells and Raj Dute for helping set that one up. It'll be right after we record our Australian roundtable. So be sure to come say hi if you're in Australia. And thanks to everybody who supports the show, so that even if I'm gone, the show continues, because we've got a great group here. And you can keep that happening at patreon.com/DTNS.
Absolutely. If you have feedback for us, questions, comments, anything, we want to hear it. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Yes, indeed. We'll be back tomorrow with Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Hey, Tom.
Sorry,
Lamarr. Did I cut you off?
No. You all have a script, and I jumped in. That was not.
No. It's okay. I'm. We're just.
And then I was late on the music.
No. It was.
And also, Tom, whatever was going on with your spreadsheet was going on with mine. Like,
it happened to
kept
mine too.
going up to the top.
Same here.
I don't know why, but it just kind of threw me off.
I was trying to read it, but.
Yeah.
It did it to me a few times.
I
like after a while I was like, if it's me, I'm not touching this thing anymore.
Roger.
Yeah. I did not do anything.
No. Roger, press one of the buttons. like the wrap up. All right, that didn't do it. Do it again. Yeah, okay.
I mean, yeah.
I will say that it jumped on me, and then when it jumped on me, that bar row 1 was no longer fixed. Like
weird. Okay,
like
it's probably
so something unfreezed it.
I know what it is.
What?
Microsoft. They heard you say that Google Docs was just as good, and so they went in. They're like, "Oh, really?"
Well, I was like, "Why is this so revolutionary?" And they were like, "How about this, Sarah? Are you
do like
doing a live show, right?"
Now? Yeah.
That's the answer.
No, you know what? The very good points about if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, whether you want to be or not. I know a lot of people who mumble and grumble about having to use Outlook for work, but hey, it is a robust system, and it makes a lot of sense to be able to have a voice assistant be compatible with the stuff you might already have at home.
And I'll be honest,
they want to provide a turnkey solution for any developers who want to do a bunch of things without necessarily having to move out of a specific development environment.
I hear a lot of people still complaining about Outlook, but that's I don't hear people complaining about Office like they used to. The complaints have started to simmer down on a lot of Microsoft products. I think
would argue it's because a lot of people don't have to use it anymore.
Oh no, it's people are using it still. It's just gotten better. I use it all the time. Okay. It's definitely in Microsoft Office is in higher use than it used to be. Like it is on the rise.
So
and well, you don't have to anymore. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Sarah. It's better now.
Well, okay, but I also don't have to use it anymore.
It's changed, Sarah.
It's okay.
It's not like it used to be.
Variety's the spice of life. Outlook, I had to use it at my last full-time job, which I did not enjoy, but it also had been a while since I used it. Like, there's nothing wrong with Outlook. It's super robust. You can do anything you want to do in there. But it was hard for me to get back into it after, more or less just being in the Google accounts.
Eileen complains about Outlook all the time.
Yeah, it's like, I don't have anything to say that's like, there's nothing wrong with it. It just, it's almost like I'm crippled by choice, which is the same way I feel about Office. But
and then there's Outlook. I think we're all talking about Outlook, the software,
email.
Right. Yeah. There's also Outlook.com, the email service that's on the web that is similar to Gmail, which is way better than Outlook, the software application.
For a while, I used Outlook on iOS. And I didn't stop using it for any reason. Just, I don't know, I tried some other app and then I never went back. But I mean, that worked really well. That was actually a great app. So,
yeah.
So not a Microsoft hater, just saying.
No, definitely not. And I think Microsoft's getting better at stuff.
Well, they are certainly they're doing a lot of stuff.
Well, as witnessed by today. One of the reasons I was late on the music is I was trying to apologize to Amos, who does our show notes, for all the links. Like, sorry, man, it's a dev conference. Yeah, also, it's going to happen tomorrow too because of I/O.
Sorry.
Bunch of Windows. Windows.
Oh, you need your title, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just having issues with my mouse not working.
That's Google saying, "Oh, you're going to throw shade on Google Docs, Microsoft? Well, we'll freeze Rogers."
I hope they don't have access like that. That's scary.
Oh yeah, they all have all the access.
Yeah, if you use their browser or you use
they're
Windows,
in your machine.
They're in it. You invited them in.
They're like vampires.
Tell Cortana to open the A word.
I mean, it's getting almost ridiculous how scared I am to say the word, where I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, the fans aren't going to revolt. Like, they understand that it's a thing. Yeah. We're saying all the other words.
You can overthink it. That's for sure.
You can overthink it. Yeah. But I do.
Not the end of the world.
I really go out of my way not to say it, where especially during headlines when there's an echo story of some kind. You know, I'll say like, you know, her, wink, wink, and I'm just like, what are they saying?
Well, especially because I think the largest chunk of people who listen to Daily Tech Headlines listen to them on an Amazon Echo. So
right, exactly.
That element to it as well.
I listen to you on the Google Assistant in the bathroom now.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah. Well, the bathroom part probably wasn't important.
What about Microsoft build up before Google I/O? Or is it just
we couldn't hear you, Roger. I'm sorry.
Oh, Microsoft build up before Google I/O, or tell Cortana to open the A word, or Microsoft edges toward IoT and AI? I like tell Cortana to open the A word.
Oh, I like Microsoft edges towards IoT and AI. Like that's a really succinct way of putting it. Like that's exactly what they were saying today.
What do you want? Nothing? All right. Lamarr. I can't hear either one of you. I hear Tom.
Oh, yeah? I just wasn't saying anything.
I saw you move your mouth.
The first time I haven't been talking. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Right.
I don't have an opinion. I think the one you said with the Microsoft edging towards whatever, that's fine.
All right, done.
Yay.
Oh, hold on.
Tomorrow's going to be fun. I mean, I didn't get up early enough to watch Microsoft's event, but I'm going to watch Google's.
Yeah, because Google's is at 10.
Yeah, that's when I wake up.
Oh gosh, really? I'm so.
I'm a night owl, so I go to bed around 4 or 5. I kind of third shift. That's kind of how my life.
I definitely don't stay up that late, but I have 2 cats who don't appreciate anyone else's time. So you know, at 6 o'clock, if I'm not already up, they're gonna make sure that I get up.
No, you need to train them. Like, you better stay asleep.
There's no training 11-year-old cats. You know, there's no like. What do I do? Yell at them? They just be like.
Well, have you had them that long?
What's that?
Have you had them 11 years?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, yeah.
No, it's my fault. It's bad parenting. I own it.
I say there's nowhere else to blame for this, but
no, it's me. It's me. Well, there are little things that you can do, like you can shut them out of the bedroom. You know, so you have to chase them out and then shut the doors. I have 2 doors to my bedroom, you know, just of course, because I have to make it difficult. And then you'll maybe get 30 minutes of respite. And then the howling starts because they can't get back in, you know, so you see little cat feet, you know, under the door, you know, and they're trying to open it, you know, so it's mayhem. So sleeping till 10, what a luxury.
Oh, again, I'm not getting more sleep than you. It's just
right. You're just time shifted. Yeah.
I just time shifted. You know, the night is good for me.
Well, you know, it's probably not dissimilar to how I feel about getting up early. I love, you know, between 6 and 8, before just kind of the world wakes up and starts communicating with me. Those are some of my most productive hours of the entire day, you know? Just because I don't know, I'm fresh. I'm drinking my coffee. It's quiet. Sun's not up yet.
You have your co-host in Slack saying, "Which of these 16 options do you?"
Co-hosts aren't, you know, like I know when you guys start, you know, rustling.
Tom is up by what, 7 at least minimum?
Yeah, I'm usually up around 7, maybe a little bit before. I let the dogs out, and that's
who let them out?
Yeah, me. I'm the one.
Tom.
Yeah.
You know.
If you ever wanted to know who let the dogs out, it was me.
Now I know.
A little bit before 7 every morning.
Now we know.
Who? Me.
And learning is half the battle.
Tom.
Probably will go down in history as one of the most annoying popular songs ever.
Oh, it's a wonderful song.
Anything.
I don't like anything. I only like select things.
Clip it out. He said it. He admitted it. I don't like anything.
That's exactly what he said.
I have
your words,
Roger.
I had a lot of fun yesterday on Twitter by posting, like, I know I'm opening myself to a lot of hate here, but I like something.
I like things too, but you know.
You should have been the creator of Cranky Geeks.
I produced it.
produced.
I know you did. I know he did. That's what I said.
No, John DeMar created
Perfect.
it.
Yeah.
It was literally we took a mold of his face and it just became the show.
That was one of the first tech shows I watched.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I listened to your Showtime, via, whatever, audio. But yeah, Crank Geeks was the first tech show I watched because I wasn't really watching in the whole tech TV era.
Mm-hmm.
I was just doing other stuff during that time. So I kind of missed that. I knew of it, but I just didn't know. But yeah, I found Cranky Geeks. I'm like, wow, this old cranky guy, I like him. He has opinions like I do.
He was like that when he was writing columns for PC Mag back in the 90s and 80s.
20th anniversary of the iMac was yesterday. One of John's most famous columns was maybe it was the iBook, not the iMac.
The iBook. He compared it to a woman's
hand purse or something.
Or something. Okay, I'm glad that ended well.
And I said that it looked more like a toilet seat cover dispenser.
I'm actually picturing one of those. Oh god.
Mine is more accurate, I think, but his got more chuckles.
Yeah. Yeah, it was him. Because I forgot what I was watching on some app that I was able to get streaming to the TV somehow. I don't know if it was on TiVo or whatever, but it was that and then Dig Nation. Those are the two shows I kind of found first.
Everyone did Dig.
And then there was that one with that Patrick Norton did. It was before HD Nation. It was
Techzilla.
I feel like it was before Techzilla too.
DLTV.
Yeah, you were on that, right?
I produced that too.
Yeah, that's where I first saw you. Yeah, DLTV is one of my favorite shows. You sat all the way in the back.
Lamarr, it sounds like you're a fan of Roger Chang Productions.
I am. Yeah. That's why when I saw him, I was mad that I couldn't stop and
touch me,
shake his hand and get an autograph. We kept getting ushered in. No, Avengers was more important than you.
Please leave Mr. Chang alone.
Please, I'm here to watch a movie. I probably won't enjoy it, but I'm here anyway. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It wasn't a terrific movie. It was a good movie.
I can provide independent confirmation that Roger enjoyed it.
I saw Black Panther this weekend for the first time.
Oh wow!
Okay,
I know.
Are you watching in order? Have you seen Avengers yet?
The latest Avengers?
Yes.
No.
Sorry. Okay.
No.
So you're getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm just I like to, be the caboose of pop culture.
It's interesting. So, given all of the hype about Black Panther, did that affect your viewing of it?
I loved the movie. It wasn't exactly what I thought it would be like. And I'm not totally sure how to describe what that means. I found it to be less like a superhero movie than I expected. But that's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was
very sci-fi in some areas versus superhero.
It was almost more sort of like Star Wars meets Game of Thrones to me than I expected. But I really enjoyed it. It was, and I don't love kind of action stuff as much as the next guy, and I felt very riveted. I loved all the different scenes of
violence and action.
Not violence, but there was real world cities, right? And then they'd go back to Wakanda, and then they'd go back to South Korea, and it was all over the place, and I found it very exciting.
Well, before we wrap up the live video stream, real quickly, Snapchat just replaced Andrew Valero, their chief financial officer, with Tim Stone, who previously, and up till this morning, was vice president of physical stores for Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before last year, he was vice president of finance for Amazon. So it may be that he was like, I don't like doing physical stores. I want to go back to finance. And that's why he's at Snap. But that's interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys all tomorrow with Patrick Page.
Goodbye, videos.
Take care, guys.